All right, hey team, good morning. Hope you're having a good weekend. There was a question in our group from Nero about where to, as far as using the volume alerts, about where to, take a short. And thank you, Rab, by the way, for answering that. So let me just go through a couple of these that have already happened, and I'm going to show you one that probably will get going pretty soon here. And I think I'll start with that one. So what I wanted to tell you is before you even start, I mean, even if you don't know how to, set resistance lines, support lines, all you really have to do is find the tops right here, the most recent tops, and say, okay, if this is a top right here, I'm just going to put a line. And if maybe there's a bottom here, I'm going to put a line right there at the bottom. So this is really all you have to do. And then, you're just doing your local tops and local bottoms. You could even mark this one here. So this bottom one you can see is holding support pretty well. This would be your next resistance line, which turns into support once price gets over it. So if this one continues to hold this one, then it's going to keep pushing up. And I'm in a long on this one currently. But I'm also going to show you, and actually I think there's probably a resistance area there. Yeah, I think the resistance area is here actually, because see this wick right there? So these wicks, sometimes when they come down like that, that's a resistance area. But play around with this, see how these lines interact with each other. And I would say this one's probably more accurate right here. What you're trying to do is connect as many wicks and as many candle bodies as you can. And then that's usually your bottom. This one could even be up a little bit, maybe something like that. But anyway, just play around with that. I've actually got a video that you can search on the Discord that's about support and resistance, or it's in the video area. You can go up in here to the video content area right there. All right, so ICNT, we've only gotten one signal from it so far, which means it hasn't made its move yet, which is good. It's got a little W pattern. It had an M. Maybe it's ready to do another larger W to try to test this area once more. So it's moving much more slowly than some of these have, like SLERF. It just took off all of a sudden. But, hopefully this thing's ready to go soon. It just needs to break over this, 2269 line. So we got our 30% signal here. So we knew when this happened on 1017 at 1234 my time. Where's 1017? I'm looking for 12 in the afternoon. So it's about right here. So in this case, you have to be careful. Like if you look at your most recent local high, you have to be careful if it hasn't pierced that area yet, and understand that it could reject exactly there or near it. So be very careful. If you see a 30% alert and then it starts to roll back over, then maybe don't take that one right away. It would have to blast through this for you to be interested in taking it right away. That's my point. And I'm going to show you some that'll be obvious. So start off at a higher time frame, like a 4 hour or something. Mark some lines. Get used to doing that. And then what you're going to want to do is go to indicators, search the ARTY, ARTY, click it. It's going to be called the Phoenix on here, but it's the same thing. Go to the settings, make sure this is on exponential right here. And it doesn't matter where you put these. Mine are on number 2 and number 3 here, but the 21 EMA and the 51 EMA. So, you could put them up here, 21, 51. It doesn't matter where you put them. And then make sure they're both solid. And make sure the lines are solid. Change them to whatever colors you want. And hide the other two. We don't need the other two. And that's all you need to do. Go down here and hit save as default once you do that. That way it saves it for you. And then once you want to bring it up on a chart in the future, all you have to do is go to indicators, do this little drop down right next to indicators. Actually, you do have to mark it as your favorite first. So click that little star thing next to it so it's your favorite. And then you would click here, you would click the ARTY, on your favorite indicators, and bam, it's all ready to go for you on the next chart. All right, so on the long-term time frame, obviously, this thing is finding support every time it touches this blue line, which is the 51. And even right now, when it's touching the 21, the white line, it's finding support there. So that means it's gaining momentum to the upside, right? Before, the white line, the 21, was acting as resistance, right? So, you've got horizontal support resistance lines, yes, but you've also got moving average support resistance lines. So we know, especially on a higher time frame, if we pierce above, if we close a candle above the 21 EMA, because that's very strong resistance right here, then that means this thing could be getting bullish, right? So if you see something like this, and sometimes you do get a wick down like that, so you can't have your stop loss too tight. You'd have to put your stop loss down here somewhere, because they will try to stop you out before the bigger move up. Remember, big crashes happen before a big move up. And what did we have on October 10th? We had a big crash. So we're expecting a big move up for alts. But especially once this thing broke above the 51 EMA, the blue line here, that really showed a lot of strength, right? But it came up here and it rejected at the local high, and it needed some time to consolidate. And now it's trying to, continue to push up here. And eventually, I hope that it will do like a parabolic move. What you have here is an inverted head and shoulders, basically. There's your left shoulder, head, and right shoulder. I don't know if this thing is gonna, do something like that first. It could, but I think this will pretty much hold. This thing almost created an engulfing candle and came all the way back up, so that's pretty strong. There's a lot of people buying right there at that line, right? So kind of see what things do when they interact with that line. If you get a wick down and then it pushes back up, then that means a lot of people are buying at that level. Okay, so none of this matters as far as the drawings go. All that matters is your 1221. If you're on the 5-minute and you get a signal for a 30-minute, let me find it here for you. What am I looking for? Oh, I think I had it on the chart, didn't I? Where did it go? There it is. It's hidden way at the bottom. I'm going to bring that up. And let me find it again. Where in the world is it? I'll just put it right over the price action so I can find it this time. Okay. All right, we're going to the 5-minute. There it is right there. I'm going to put it right beside the price action so we know exactly when that came through. I'm on the 5-minute chart here. 17, 12, 34. Yeah, so see, this actually gave you the signal after this thing had already rejected and started coming down. I don't know that the 5-minute worked that well for this one. It did okay, but there was a lot of crossing up and down here. So, this is fairly clean. Yeah, that's fairly clean on the way up. But then all of a sudden you got a cross down here. This one was very difficult to figure out when to jump into a short. And really because it was sustaining a lot of the gains that it had made and it was just going sideways. Right here was more of a clear breakdown, and then it came back up and retested that 51 right there. So, this is a very difficult one to get into a short. It's just showing a lot of strength right now. It's holding its gains. If you run like a 15-minute chart, it would be a lot more clear on how to play this. So jump around to different charts first. And it's okay to wait, on a 15-minute chart. You don't have to use a 5-minute chart every time. But you can see how this thing held these lines all the way up. And then as this thing started hugging the 51 line there, the blue line, that was showing a lot of weakness. Notice how these two lines are starting to constrict. That usually means that a big move's coming. See down here, they're starting to constrict. They're wide right here, and they get closer and closer, and then they cross, and that means a big move's coming. And so as long as this thing is above the 51 and there's no cross down, the 51 is where you should be buying every time, as long as there's no cross down. And then if you get a cross down, just get out. But here was your perfect retest of that. So cross down, perfect retest of the blue line. Here's another perfect retest. So you could have taken either one of these shorts. Just wait for it to hit the blue line, right? Or wait for it to get above it and then cross below it. And this is what it'll look like on the 5-minute as well. But here we are, this is possibly a good area to buy because it's back. We had a cross up. It's back touching the blue line. And then if you, the great thing about this is if you use this blue line as your support on the way up or the white line, then you just get out if it closes below there. Like a 5-minute candle, if it closes below, let me see what it looks like currently on the 5-minute. Yeah, it's not closed yet. There's not a full candle closed below it just yet. You got 44 seconds on this 5-minute candle. So, you could consider getting out of it here if you took a long somewhere down here. But for now, There's just not enough information, I don't think. You don't have a cross down, by the way. So this could just be a fake out, but it is seeing some resistance here. So anyway, I'm in this long as of, I don't remember where I got in, I think down here somewhere. Yeah. So I got in down there somewhere. So I need to reevaluate it and see if it's going to reject this area. But let's move on to some that have already happened, because I want you to see what it looks like as things are taking place, as price action is happening. So we're going to talk about the one that you were asking about, Nero. So this is MLN, and I'm just going to take off the indicator for 1 second and show you. Maybe I need to go up a little bit higher time frame. Yeah. So you can mark the candle body or the wick, either one. I'm just marking some local tops here, local bottoms. I could pull this one down. Look left further and see, see where else there might be some support. And obviously the support down here has already happened, but at the time that 10th of October crash had already happened. So you really have to go down here to a lower time frame once something like this happens. But you'll need these later as well once things pump. Let me go down to a lower time frame, and if you saw this moving up like this and you saw it reject, you could mark this as your next local top or this wick, either one, and then just see if it rejects on the way back up. But it didn't. It went really hard. However, at this line, you got some chop. So here, once you saw a candle close above it on like a 5 minute, let's see what our 5 minute shows us. Yeah, so this thing rejected, came back down, found support. It didn't have any trouble getting through these lines. It did have some trouble getting through this one. It acted as strong resistance, which it was right in the middle of it. But if you turn on your lines here, like say you missed this and this thing did its 30% move, which we did get an alert for that, and you got a cross down right here, and you felt like it could keep going, you were just kind of watching it saying, okay, I want to see if I can jump in this thing, then you would have entered somewhere over here on the cross up. I mean, it's really that easy. So this one's showing, this one has kind of the same strength as that ICNT one I just showed you. And if we put them side by side, and sometimes it's good to do this just to kind of check what the two patterns look like. I'll do this a lot, but just be careful because sometimes you get it wrong as far as what the pattern looks like. But you can see here, there is some similarities. Oh yeah, there it is. I mean, the lines probably aren't going to look the same, but there are some similarities here where you have this little W bottom, W, a little push up right there, comes back down and retests. Yeah, I think that's the retest right there. So, ICNT could be ready to go soon. It just needs to, like we were looking back on its chart, it needs to get above this line right here, like 2270-ish. If it can start closing some candles above there, then you're looking good. And again, jump around to different time frames and see what it looks like. Even look at like the 1 hour. Things are still bullish there. The lines still have a pretty good gap. 3 hours looking real good. Blue line on the 3 hours acting like support. These are places you want to buy on the higher time frame. So hopefully this makes sense to you on what I'm showing. But if we go back and we just look at MLN here, and we're looking, if you're looking for a short here, there's really nothing to see just yet. I mean, even on the 5 minute, like go to a high time frame first. Well, your lines are way down here, so you can't really see it. I mean, here's your 1 hour. It touched the 21 almost perfectly for a good buy signal. It did touch it perfectly on the 45 minute. So just, kind of jump around on these, see how price is respecting it. You'll see the same pattern on 5 minute charts. And here it touched the blue line. So the lower time frame you go, the more it can kind of hit these two lines. But if you're seeing something weak, if you're seeing weakness here or something like that, like we mark one of these, here's where it crossed down right there. And so you might have been thinking, well, maybe this thing's coming all the way back down, I'm gonna take a short. But you don't really know that it's gonna, hold its gains, or if it's gonna drop. It may just hold here and then move up. which it showed a lot of strength, just like ICNT is right now. But if you mark this in your 5 minute and then you jump up to like a 30 minute and you look at it and you say, okay, logically, this thing's hitting the 21 for the first time since it broke out. So 21 should be strong support. And it's hard to do in the what's the word I'm thinking of? It's hard to do in real time, because it looks scary, right? Especially these two, they closed below it just temporarily. It wasn't a full candle below, but it would just, the bottom of it closed below it. And you even got a wick right here before a big move. So understand these wicks happen before a big move down here and up here. So this held on the 1 hour, it barely touched it. Well, actually, you wouldn't have known that at the time, but you could have been telling yourself, okay, if this thing comes down and gets near the 21, I'm going to buy, because it could be a good place to buy. And if for some reason it starts to fail below that line, I'm just going to sell and get out. 3 hour, there was really nothing to see, but 30 minutes showed you a really good view there. 45 showed a good view. So if you're patient, if you miss this first pump and you're patient and you just wait for this thing to come into your buy zone and practice this, because you're going to find strategies that work for you. You just, patience is the thing, and then have conviction when it hits your zone. And then if it doesn't work out, you got a tight stop loss here, just get out. So your mental stop loss would be a close below the blue line in this case on the 15-minute chart. But yeah, 5 minute showed strength. It just, held most of its gains, went sideways, closed above the resistance line after it rejected, and pumped some more. So there's probably a resistance line it's hitting somewhere here. So we can go to 3 hour maybe. Well, we probably have to go to like daily. Yeah. I mean, your candle body top is there, but your wick top is like right up there somewhere. And there was another wick right there. So try to find the areas that had a lot of, like maybe a big wick happened, or the big wicks here, or some candle bodies. You can even go down to 3-day and just look and see. And you could even take that daily resistance line and move it up to here if you wanted to. But I don't know, I kind of liked using that daily one. So let's see here on the 3 hour what happened. Now that we have, you should always go ahead and do your lines ahead of time once you start, once you get ready to play a play. So getting closer here on the 5 minute, we saw that it rejected perfectly right there after we drew our line. It also used this line as support. And now it's using this resistance line as support. So what you need to see, even if we didn't have these indicators on, to feel like maybe a short was in play, you'd have to at least see this come down like that and reject. And then at that point, maybe your lines are starting to curl down, and then price action maybe, dips like that, and then it hits the blue line, and that's where you would take the short right there. But, on the 5 minute, you have no cross down. There's no reason to even consider a short. So, hopefully that makes sense for you. I'm going to show you in one of these what it looks like. So SLERF was a very hard one to short because it did it really quickly. And so this would be good practice to look at this one. We got our, on 10/17, 11/44, we got a 30% alert. But first, let's talk about the long idea. Turn that off for a second, and we're going to go to the daily chart first. And let's start marking some local highs here. So this big dip, we need to mark one. Looks like there's one about there. We're going to mark this wick right here. And this could be one too, actually. This. I like that. So here's a rejection point. Here's a wick that touches that rejection point. Here's some support from previous before it broke down. So I like that line. That's a pretty good line. What else do I want to mark here? These are a little bit tougher. Usually you want to go left to right. It makes it easier. So mark your top, mark your bottom, including that wick there. Maybe pull it up to this wick even. Yeah, because these wicks are touching here. And then mark this one because there's a top there and a wick down. I may want to pull this up here. Yeah, because of that wick and that. Okay, and then mark your top here. I'm not sure on this one. I don't know. It's one of these. So now you got your lines. Do we want to go all the way down to the, okay, let's go to like the 1 hour maybe. We'll turn our lines on. I don't think it's going to help us any because this one just went too fast. What did I say? 10:17. Here, let's go down to the 15-minute. We're looking for 10:17 at 11. Yeah, right in here. So you got an early alert on this one. Did it really go up 30% from there? That's weird. Hang on. 10:17. Oh, PM. That's where I had it wrong. So I had AM. Looking for PM. Let's drag this 11, 20. Okay, that's 10. Here's 11. 11:15. Yeah, something like that. So check that out. That's really cool, right? I mean, we got the signal right when the 30 or right when this thing was correcting, so it's perfect for us. Of course, I'm on the 15-minute chart. Let me go to the 5-minute. So you would have been looking at the 5-minute at the time. And unfortunately, it did not touch the line, to give you a better entry, but we could have been watching it and said, okay, this 30% was probably a good short area just because we had already marked our resistance line there. It didn't come down and give you any support touches, unfortunately. This one just went so fast. I don't really recommend going down to the 1-minute chart, but one thing you could have done just from a price action perspective is once it broke above, when we talked about this earlier, once it broke above this line, this resistance line, then that's where you could have taken your long. But if we did go down to the 1-minute, this is usually what the 5-minute looks like. But for some reason, this one didn't really work as well on the 5-minute. So as this thing was going sideways and then broke above your 21, you could have taken a position right there. And then if it rolled around on you again, just get out, But once this crossed above the resistance line, then you're feeling pretty good, right? So let's take this idea just really quickly and compare it with ICNT, which I said was very possibly going to be a good play soon. Let me turn off engineering robo here. Okay. That's the wrong setting on that. And I know this video is taking a while, but I just want to make sure that you understand how best to approach this. I'm gonna go up to a higher time frame here because this thing is really choppy. Yeah, so what are we looking at here? Okay, same exact structure. In fact, I'm gonna go even higher here so it's not, there we go. So same exact structure pretty much. It's because I've got it so big, it looks different, but basically what you've got is, let me do it more like this. Yeah, you got a couple different lines here that it was trying to break through. And if we take that same idea here and we say, I mean, this one's kind of trending up more, so it's not really the same thing. But if we say something like that, we say something like, I don't know, this maybe. Yeah, it's kind of the same thing. Like, this is your W right here, I believe. So this, I think, is this. And then here's your M, that's that. And then it comes down one more time. So I don't know, maybe this one, I mean, it could just be ready, but it could come down one more time. But the main thing you're looking for is if it starts to, blast out of here at above 23 cents, then it's just ready to go, right? Because that's exactly what happened here. All right, and so SLERF, if we're talking about taking a short, what do we have here? So we stayed, I'm using, well, let's use a 5-minute chart. I was gonna say I'm gonna use the 1-minute, but let's not do that. So here's your crop. I mean, this is really clean. Even though this one was a very fast drop, it's extremely clean. So your cross, unfortunately, didn't come till later, but you did get a drop through the 51. and then a perfect retest. So you could have taken a chance here and taken a short, and then just, if it closed back above the 21, then just get out. This is a really clean short, perfect entry area. Yeah, you didn't have your cross down yet, but on the 1 minute it did. The only other way you could have caught this short is if you would have had your support level right here and saw this candle close below it while you're getting a cross down. And so as this thing is coming down, this thing will start bouncing against that 51. And I'm going to show you on a different coin. But this thing just fell. I mean, the bottom fell out of it so quickly that you could have made easily 50% times, if you were doing 10x leverage or something, that's a 500% gain. In a matter of minutes, actually, a matter of like 10-15 minutes. But it's not always going to be this clean. It's usually very confusing. So let me go through this last one. This is another one that did really well for us. So on 10:15 at 10:54, I want to talk about the long idea and I want to talk about the short idea, because you should be able to make money on both, both methods. Like I posted. This is not to brag or anything. I'm just posting to show you that you can play on both ways. Where's that? ICNT, I did a short. ICNT, I did a long. What else? XLM, I did a short and long. Yeah, I think those are the only two showing up here that are like the same token that I played twice. But be careful using, like you're seeing me use like 20x, 25x. I lose all the time too, because I over leverage. So you need to be careful. I would only start with like 5 or 10x leverage at most. It's a lot safer. Even if you're not making a lot of money, it's fine. You're still learning. Or just, paper trade for a while. But, we've got people like Rab who makes even bigger percentages than I do all the time. He's really good at this. So listen to what he's saying. He's kind of perfected some things. And I'm sure he loses sometimes too. We never post our losses. Nobody ever does. But, all you see is the wins. So, you're going to lose sometimes. It happens. All right, so looking at Bless, here is our 10th of October crash. We're going to mark. Remember, always mark your levels, because it's going to help you in the future. So we're just going to mark some, when did that come in? 10:15. Okay. We're going to mark some levels here. And you can do them quickly even. They don't have to be perfect, I don't think. And just mark you some levels there and just see how it worked out. And if you need to adjust the lines and, look and see, okay, well, that comes down, it touches that, and these touch that. Yeah. This wick touches there. These candle bodies touch that. This touches that. There should be some kind of confluence as you go across. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it's going to be close. Okay, so we had the 10:15, 10:54 a.m. my time. There's 10 o'clock. I'm going to go down to the 5 minute. I'm going to adjust this based on what the timing actually was. I think I said 10:45 dinner, or was it 10:55? All right, it was something like that. It might have been 10:55. So alert came in. It rejected perfectly, just like we've been seeing with these. I mean, this is such a good example of one that was an amazing play that gave you multiple opportunities to enter the long. And it's going to be scary. When you see price coming down like this really fast, it's going to be scary for you. But have the conviction. If this thing touches the 21 EMA, the white line here, go ahead and buy. If for some reason, and look, this support worked perfectly. If for some reason this thing starts to continue to move down, just get out of the play. And then if it hits the blue line, go ahead and buy some. And if it closes below the blue line, get out of it. And just wait for a better play. But in this case, if that would have happened, you probably would have seen these things start to roll over. So look, they're still wide. Remember what we talked about. When things are starting to roll over, these lines get closer. If you're talking about a short or at the top of a range. But if they're getting tighter at the bottom of a range, that means they're about to break out. Things got really, really tight. It did one really quick crash to flush out longs, and then it pumped. So if you see a quick move down after a long consolidation near a support line, it's probably going to go up, and then you need to watch for your 1221 cross And if that happens, then just wait for it to come back down. It pumps, comes back down to retest. Or if you would have missed all this, just wait, and then it comes down and actually touches the line. So just be patient with it. I mean, it may take a couple hours, but that's the way it works. You want price to come to you, and that's really the way that you'll make a lot of money and have a really high win rate. So you had another opportunity here, buy at the 21, multiple opportunities, another one. Now, when you start to see candle bodies close below the 21, at least on some of these, if it's a real choppy token, you're going to see it, move right around the 21, maybe hit the blue sometimes, but the 51. But once you're reaching, like once this thing's done a huge move, if you just start to see candle bodies close below the white line, and especially if it touches the blue line, that's showing weakness. So over the next few hours, start to watch and say, okay, is this thing tightening? Is the line crossing? And it did. It crossed perfectly right there, right where you got a great entry. So not only did it cross down and things just flushed really quickly, it also came up and gave you a great entry. So on longs, you want to buy on a 21 retest if things are still looking good. And you want to sell, you want to short sell or take profit either way if this thing comes back up and gets close to touching the blue line. The 21 is your long line. The 51 is your short line, where you take a short. So you could have entered here, here, here again, here again. It gave you a little fake out there, but you could have entered there again with a short, here again. And now it's so powerful to the downside that your 21 becomes the resistance. So once this closes back above the 21, and especially if it touches the blue again, then that's your warning sign that that's the bottom. And you can see, things really got tight. And really, you could just look at this and see, okay, are the lines starting to get closer together? And if you're seeing that, then yeah, you should probably take some of your short profits out. In fact, you probably want to close it all, definitely, once the line crossed back up. Because you're not interested in all this sideways action. Who cares? I mean, yeah, it went down some more, but big deal. All you care about is the big volatile move. You want the big move. So volatile move up, volatile move down. That's all we care about. It's going to take patience. You're going to get better at it. Practice it. Look at many, many charts. Watch price action in real time. And as long as you have time to watch the charts, and it's going to be boring, of course, but you're going to find that these entries hit just as this one did on most of them. Some of them, you're going to miss your entry opportunity, and you're going to feel bad for missing it. But if you stick to this plan and you get good at it, and you get good at being patient, you're going to make money, and you're going to make a lot of money. One thing I would say is just, if you take a long, pay attention to when things get weak. Pay attention to when the lines start, constricting like this. So there's always contraction and expansion. The contraction is when things get really tight, the lines get really tight, and then they expand, and then they contract, and then they expand. So the expansion is, you want to be in the short right here, of course. You want to be in the long right here because things are separated, but you want to watch for the cross because that's where all the volatile move begins. And you want to watch for the cross because that's where the volatile move begins. It may take it a while to really dump, but as long as this line has crossed and it's not crossing back up, it didn't even cross up here, even when this did a fake out. As long as this is true, then just stick to your play. Now, if this had crossed up, you could have just gotten out. You still would have made a decent profit here on a short. Okay, hopefully that makes sense to you. If not, feel free to ask any questions and I'll answer them for you. Y'all have a good rest of your weekend. Take care.